pleasure to have my buddy Chip Roy on. Chip, how are you?
Mark, I'm doing great. How are you, my friend?
I don't know. I'm ticked off about everything. You want to know the truth. But anyway, Chip, can you explain to we the people in plain English this budget issue, what's going on in the Senate, what's going on in the House, please?
Yes, I can. Now, I said I was doing great. Now you're gonna drag me down by having to talk about this because
come live in my world. Go ahead.
Amen, brother. Look, here's the deal. We set out obviously early this year, worked to deal with the speaker. We thought we should be spending at a level that would be pre-COVID level spending. Try to give a shot to increase defense a little bit, get the bureaucracy back to pre-COVID, 2022 levels. Well, debt deal was cut. It was a higher level. I didn't like it. Fast forward, now we're in a question of how we're going to fund government by the end of September. We passed one appropriations bill in July, part of the defense package, and now we've got the defense bill that was supposed to be on the floor this week, and we don't have full agreement. Here's why. Because there's a block of conservatives in the House who are saying, one, we need to hold down our spending levels, but two, importantly, we've got to use the power of the purse to force change out of the Biden administration. We've got a border that's out of control. We've got a DOJ that's out of control and weaponized against the President of the United States, average American citizens, an ATF that's trying to turn criminals out of gun owners. We've got a Department of Defense that's woke. It's more concerned about social engineering than the first mission to defend the country. So we're trying to force change through the spending process. And that's what's at stake right now. And look, some of us are just saying, guys, we're not going to break. We're going to hold the line and say that we've got to get changes out of the Senate and the president. And that's what's currently being debated as we speak.
What are the Republicans in the Senate doing?
They're utterly useless. I mean, look, the House is having the debate that needs to be had. We don't always agree on it, but we're having the debate that needs to be had. The Senate is being utterly useless, other than a handful of champions there, obviously led by Mike Lee, who are trying to do the right thing. Most are already pre-capitulating. Mitch McConnell is trashing Tommy Tuberville for daring to stand up for life and holding up these nominations at DOD, and he's already trying to preemptively surrender on the spending fight. So the Senate is not helping. We're trying to hold the Senate accountable and say, guys, we're going to keep fighting in the House. And you know what, Mark, you and I lived through 10 years ago when I was Ted Cruz's chief of staff to fight over Obamacare. And I've had some of my colleagues say, oh, my God, you know what happened after that? It was terrible. So wait a minute. Hold on. What was terrible? In 2014, Republicans gained 14 seats to get to 247 and gained 9 seats in the Senate, the largest Republican majority since 1929. Part of that was because Ted Cruz stood up and fought against Obamacare and showed that if we stand up, people will be inspired. That's what we're trying to do now.
I think part of the problem is, and I'm having trouble understanding, what exactly is the position that conservatives are coalescing around? Is it the border? I mean, in addition to cutting spending, what is it exactly? The border, the Department of Justice? What is it?
So, great question. In part made more difficult because of how bad this administration is at war with all of us in many ways, an existential fight. We are saying that we should be securing this country first. The first order of government is to secure the blessings of liberty, right? And they should secure us. They should secure our border. The military should be doing its core responsibility. We are saying that do those things, fund those things, and that's what we'll do. Yes, the border is the tip of that spear. I'm a Texan. Yesterday, they reported 9,000 encounters. We have all the stories like this illegal in Pennsylvania that stabbed a woman 28 times, then broke out of jail. We have the kid who was killed in Ohio by an illegal immigrant released into the country. We have, Mark, you're going to believe this, the Inspector General, 60,000 releases a month, and the Inspector General found that of 1 million released between 21 and 22 for over 15 months, 177,000 of them gave false addresses and multiple addresses at like bus stops and all sorts of things. We have no idea where they are.
It doesn't help. I'm being honest with you, Chip, you're a buddy of mine. When Gates is out there talking about that impeachment inquiry is a diversion, a lot of us want an impeachment inquiry. We've asked for an impeachment inquiry. My audience wants an impeachment inquiry. Can't we walk and chew gum at the same times on the Republican side?
Of course we can. And you know, Matt's a friend. I mean, on this point, I disagree. I've said this repeatedly. We should have an inquiry. I applaud McCarthy for going down the road of an inquiry. I've been advocating it for a while. The work that Jamie Comer's been doing has been pretty darn solid, given, and people don't realize this. You worked in the Justice Department. I was a former prosecutor. We don't have the backing of the Justice Department, so we're having to do it through the staff at the Oversight Committee, and you got to work through it. So they've been getting the information, draw out the whistleblowers, make the case. I mean, we're only 8 months in. They've laid that foundation. You now do an impeachment inquiry. You now go after the bank records. You go try to follow the dollars, see where the dollars went from the foreign nationals to Hunter Biden. We believe to Joe, certainly either direct, if not directly, certainly in terms of funding. Let's go follow all that. And that's what this is about. An impeachment inquiry gives you the tools you need to heighten the power of what we're asking for in subpoenas, as you well know, in court.
You know, Chip, I don't understand a couple of things here, really. You point out the Ted Cruz situation. I'll double you down there. Which president had the two biggest massive landslide victories in modern American history? Ronald Reagan. He shut down the government 6 times. 6 times. If the people know you're trying to do the right thing, and that the other side isn't, and of course you don't have the media with you, that makes it much more important that we have a united voice, particularly among conservatives who are trying to do the right thing, that they get up there, not just 20 of you, but 50 of you, 80 of you, and I'm not talking about you in particular, I'm just saying, and get together and say, these are the 3 things we want. We want, you know, on the board. I can just hear it now. I can write the speech. I can deliver the speech. But if you've got a couple of knuckleheads that are off there charging on their own, it makes it much more complicated. I don't know that there's anything you could do about it. I'm just saying it.
So everything I've done, Mark, since early August has been designed to try to shove all of this through the funnel of security with, as I said, the border being the tip of the spear. Everybody in America is starting to feel it. The New Yorkers are feeling it. Heck, even liberals in New York, the mayor of New York, they're going, oh, crap, what have we bought? We're starting to get a wake-up to it. So to me, if you want to rally around something and you want to force change, like we can't get everything we want in this current divided government with this administration, but we can constrain spending and fight for something to change the disaster at our border, because it is fundamentally endangering us, undermining our sovereignty, empowering cartels, empowering China, killing our kids, and frankly, it's killing migrants, getting sold into the sex trafficking trade. So I believe we can win this fight if Republicans are willing to do it. Now, here's the thing. I was at a Republican lunch today, and I was having to make the case, and the response was always, Chip, but you know what'll happen? We'll get blamed. I'm like, no kidding, we'll get blamed.
I'm so sick of it. Hold on. Can I just interrupt you a second? Do they understand on the issues the American people are with us? And that rather than allowing the Democrats to use your usual Marxist, BS about how little kids are going to go hungry and seniors are going to go without, why don't we get out there and say we're the ones that want to prevent what's going on the border? We're the ones who want to prevent the Democrats from destroying, home ownership and pushing interest rates higher and so forth and so on. Why don't we take what the American people are telling us they don't like about what the Democrats are doing and rub their noses in it as a group?
Amen, Mark. And I'm working to try to get us to some sort of unified position to do that. And stated even, I'll go even further. But not only are the American people with us, the whole point here is in a republic, we're leading. Even if they weren't with us, we should do the right thing. But they are with us. So, gosh, you got all the wind in your sails. The American people want leadership. They want us to secure the border. They want their defense to be focused on guns and bullets and boats and planes and people trained to fly those things and not training to be, transsexual or something. We've got people who want us to actually reduce spending and constrain spending instead of a $2 trillion deficit. We've got people who want the Department of Justice to focus on fentanyl and gangs and cartels and criminals and not let criminals on the street, rather than targeting Scott Smith in Loudoun County or Mark Houck in Philadelphia or former President Trump. They want us to do our damn job. So why don't we just campaign and run on those things and then do something about it?
To me, it's like abortion. The Democrats want abortion right up to the point of birth. Americans do not. We never said that.
Correct.
I got chapter and verse of them saying that and voting for it. I don't know why I don't know. How do these people get elected? I thought, aren't they like the pinnacle of politicians? They get elected. Now it's, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. You're afraid of what? I don't get it. I honestly don't. I'm not a politician. I just don't get it.
Well, the good news, that let's venture into positive land. The 20 of us that were on the floor in January, and there were differences of opinion and all that, but we forced some reasonable change. We've gotten some really good things. H.R. 2 was a great border bill. Limit, Save, Grow was a great spending bill. Unfortunately, we didn't stick with it. We got a great bill in the National Defense Authorization Act, which got rid of transgender surgeries and abortion, all this stuff. Good bills. When we're united, we're doing a good thing because of the work we're doing. So let's just take stock that there are some of us who are trying to move the needle and force these guys to have to answer. And you know what? It is working. I'll tell you, Mark, they're a bit in a little bit of a Gordian knot. They're kind of tied up on themselves because we're highlighting that, guys, when you vote to fund these things, you're voting for that stuff. You're voting to give money to Merrick Garland to go after Scott Smith and, Mark Houck or the former president. You're voting to give Alejandro Mayorkas more money. You're voting to give them the ability to let 9,000.
But let's make something clear, because I know you got to run.
Yep.
The majority of the Republicans in the Senate are supporting exactly that, aren't they? Schumer has run in circles around these guys. Yep. He's going to break the ceiling that you guys negotiated a few months ago. He's adding more crap to it. McConnell, who really should not be the leader anymore, but the guys behind him are no better. They are supporting this. Yes or no?
Yes, and we've got to break the back of Republican senators as much as we have to break the back of Democrat senators, and that's just the stark reality in Washington.
And that's what makes it so damn tough, quite frankly, because the pressure's always on the upward side and never on the downward side. There's no reason the Department of Justice should be having the money that it has. None. No reason the FBI should have the money it should. Look, I used to work there. I don't care.
Yep.
There's no reason they should. If you're not going to let the Border Patrol do its job, well, then what are we paying all this money for? I don't even know. We're going to have 80,000 new IRS agents. The Senate's signing off on all this stuff, the Republicans. Somebody asked me the other day, a caller, Chip, would I support renewal of the Patriot Act? I said, I supported it originally. I absolutely would not. Unless there's a fundamental change where there's some kind of check and balance and so forth and so on. Because if we rubber stamp that thing, they'll use it even more because they'll see there's no downside to it. I want to catch terrorists as much as the next guy. But we didn't always have the Patriot Act. And unless they come forward with some kind of a Patriot Act that I can really understand, that has some checks and balances, that has something going on, where it can't be turned against a presidential campaign or American citizens, oops, 1 million monitorings, we made a mistake. Now, that's not acceptable. Where do you stand on that?
Well, look, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, for a longer time.
I agree.
I don't know are we running out of time? Because look,
no, I'm not, but I'm concerned that you have to go.
Well, I've got to go give a speech at a thing, but look, here's what I just want to make sure your listeners are left with. They need to turn the heat up on their senators and their members of Congress. They have to, because right now is the time. We lost our leverage last December with the omnibus that the 17 senators sold us out on. We now have to work within the confines of the debt ceiling deal to try to hold spending in check to go fight for them in the border. We can't wait 18 months for, God willing, a President DeSantis, Trump, or someone else to be in here to save the country. We have to do it now. So we've got to turn the heat up on these guys to check them in order to do our job. That's the main thing that we need right now.
How much time do we have? No time, right? We got to get on with it now.
We got to get on with it right now. I mean, that's the thing. The leverage point we have is this spending fight right now. It's the only leverage point we have for the next year. Yeah, we have a few, like FISA reauthorization. We might be able to check the Department of Justice you were just talking about. There's a couple farm bill, but none of those have to be dealt with. The funding fight, this is the fight. It's the only real fight for the next 15, 16, 18 months until the presidential election is adjudicated. So we've got to do that now. And again, you want to inspire people to show up to the polls, fight for them. But we can't just keep rubber stamping the same crap in Washington and hand it over to the Democrats just to keep doing what they're doing. They made felons out of people for simply having a pistol break.
100%.
Seriously,
yes.
You've got to fight that.
All right, man. By the way, how you feeling these days, may I ask? I don't get to talk to you unless you're on the radio,
No, we can talk anytime, brother. Done. How are you feeling? You good?
Good enough. Let me put it that way. All right, my man. We love you. By the way, when did you get that goatee?
I grew that out there in the pandemic, and everybody I saw said I looked better with it, which I didn't take offense to. They just wanted me to cover my face. I said, look, I got a face for radio.
Oh,
that's what I got.
Excuse you. So do I. All right. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
God bless, brother.
You too. Bye-bye. I don't know about that goatee. I'm just saying myself, personally. By the way, he and I are fast friends. There have been people that try to come between us. Look, I don't agree with everybody. They don't agree with me. On some things, I'm more hardcore than others. It's okay. I come to my conclusions independently. For instance, we didn't have time, and that's okay. I think we need to massively increase defense spending. Whatever you think about Ukraine and Russia, I'm not talking about that. That's a separate budget item. I'm talking about the United States military. China is a grave threat to our liberty, to our security, and to your children. Because if we go to war with China, there's going to be a draft. There's no question about it. And we are not spending enough on defense. That's my opinion. So be it.